this computer is. Okay, hi everybody. We've been talking a little bit about how important writing communities are. We have Josandy, Marta, Christine is having a little bit of bandwidth problems, but we've got 3 great people here today. I'm so excited. And I was about to share screen and talk about process. So let's do that. Okay. Everybody see the new screen? Great. I'm in here, you can see at the top, it's Max Fraser as student, and I'm just trying to be really careful because your privacy matters to me. And so when I'm in my instructor mode on here, it shows more than it should. So this is what you see when you get to your page, right? And every week, please start with my announcements. And the reason that I ask you to do that is I am interpreting. So I mentioned earlier when I was chatting with everybody, there are 4 other sections of English 529 running right now. And SNHU is committed to everybody getting a really similar experience. So course designers make the course. I have nothing to do with the content. I don't choose the readings. I don't write the assignments. All I do is interpret the course designer's intent. And so for you to be on board with my interpretation of what the course designers are doing, you have to read my announcements. If you only go to the learning modules, you're reading the words the course designer said, but you may not, like, what if we're interpreting them differently? So please start with my announcements, because that will show you the difference between, I'm not being different than them, but maybe you are thinking they mean something other than what I'm thinking. And because I'm the person grading the work, you might want to know what I'm thinking, right? And talk to me about it. If you're seeing something differently, maybe I'm just misinterpreting something, and reach out to me. I'm very open to seeing if I'm understanding the course in a reasonable way, which reminds me. So I had one feedback in the, when you can critique the course at the end of the term. I take it really seriously. I read all of the comments, and one person said that I can only, that my way was the only way, and that I was an inflexible instructor that expected students to write the way I expected. And I don't think that's true as far as how I feel, but what I do expect is that you treat this like a fiction fundamentals class, which means that the course directors, course designers are asking you to do specific things. And so maybe you're, up here in your writing, but this is a fundamentals class. So you still have to practice the fundamentals that the course designers are asking you to do. So if I'm in your amazing piece of creative writing and I'm saying you need some dialogue because the course designers have a whole, module on dialogue, or say I'm saying, boy, there could be a lot more descriptive setting. A big one is figurative language that falls under the area of rhetorical devices. I'm asking you to have these things because the course designers have, not because it's not even necessarily my way of writing, although it is. I think this is a good course. You have to practice those fundamentals. I'm asking you to apply what's being asked for in the class. I hope that makes sense. I want to briefly pop into discussions to show you what you do next week. So when you write your story ideas, I'm going to go back and talk about next week. When you get done having those 3 original story ideas and the 3 different scenes that go with the 3 different stories, that's in module 2. See, if you can see my cursor here, the 3-1 critical peer review, that's where you submit that same assignment, but you also add 2 to 3 questions you hope your peers will answer. And it happens in that space. So you have to do that during module 2. If you haven't, then you're late. If you're turning it in module 3, it's already later and you're missing out on the opportunity for your peers to be looking at your work. So you're in module 2, but there's one thing you have to do in the module 3 space, and that's where this 3-1 critical peer review is. As you can see, it only opens on January 15th. I did put in a ticket today asking them to open it on January 8th as well, so that you could turn it in whenever you finish module 2. But if they don't fix that, then Sunday's your only day to turn it in and still be on time with it. Okay, and then if I switch to this, can you see this Word document?
No, we can't. Just the page.
Okay. Stop share. and reshare. Okay, I'm going to be working from this. Please try not to read ahead. when we do our prompts, in fact, you know what I'm going to do right now? Ha! There, now you can't read ahead. So in module 2, the focus is going to be on plot, and you'll almost feel like plot is the most important part of fiction by the time we get done with this module. But keep in mind, charters will say, you'll see in your reading, that plot keeps us moving through the book, and it's very important. The character tends to be what we remember when we're finished reading the book. So even though you've had an amazing plot happen, usually when the book is finished and you're thinking back to it, it's the person that was like prominent in your mind when you were reading it, probably the narrator. That's who usually sticks with you. So I would say all the elements of fiction are probably equally important, and we just have to do our best with each element. I'm talking a little bit here at these bullets now. For module 2, 3 different story ideas. So not 3 scenes from the same story, but 3 different stories, 3 different scenes. You write 1 paragraph summary and an accompanying 1-page opening scene. You'll see that the guidelines for submission say a minimum of 1 page, but you really should be shooting for 1 page. And I really wouldn't go over 2, because the whole story itself can be no more than 2,500 words ever across this whole course. And if you write too much in the beginning and you're only doing the opening scene, you know, where do you have to go when you try to write the whole story? 2,500 words, depending on how much dialogue you have, comes out to sort of 8 or 9 pages, 9 or 10 if you have a lot of dialogue, because, you know, each time a new person speaks, you do a new paragraph. So it's not that much to work with. It sounds like a lot, but it's not. Be sure that the scene you write is from the beginning of the story, and be sure that you're working on that amazing zinger, like first sentence of first couple sentences, that hook. And finally, when you post that Milestone One submission into the module 3 critical peer review, 1, please put it in the post space. Please don't attach a document. Something weird goes on with me, and I have to assume it goes on with you, where I'll click to open the Word document, will say the document's in use elsewhere, and there's just a lot of glitchy things with it. So just put that content right there in the post space, please. And it's easier for everybody to access it and read what you wrote. And then you don't have to put those 2 to 3 questions when you submit to me. They just go in the discussion board space, the critical peer review discussion board space. And finally, and this is important, you do want to answer the people's 2 to 3 questions, but also take a look at the rubric for how that milestone is being graded. And this first milestone is a little bit different. Milestone 2 and 3 have the same rubric basically, and use that rubric to consider things for the student, because the rubric is designed to help you be a better writer. And then if you're helping with those parts of the rubric and answering their questions, you're helping them improve their grade, and it should help their writing as well. Sorry, Neil was making noise. Okay, I'm going to stop share and ask if you have any questions.
No questions for me. No.
No for Martha, and no for Christine so far.
No.
Okay, great. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? It was kind of like a lecture. I apologize. It's a really great course, I think, because you're really digging down into the fundamentals of fiction. And you've heard most of this before already, I think, especially if you did a creative writing undergrad, but also even 520 was already dealing in some of these concepts. And I want to tell you that every time I teach this course, and I don't know, I've taught this a lot now, I get something new every time, and I'm writing a memoir right now. I'm not even writing fiction, and something in my own writing improves because of this course. And so I just want to say that if you feel like concepts are being repeated, I had a student last term who was super frustrated. She's like, I'm learning nothing new. And I was like, well, I mean, maybe the concepts aren't new, but reapplying them and thinking through them again and trying to approach them in a new way can always help your writing, and it helps mine. And I've been writing in some form for, decades. And I just want to encourage you to, think of it with a fresh look and be excited about it. Okay. So this is the fun part now. Lecture's over. Now we're going to do some writing. And I want to talk to you a bit about it before we do it. And then I do this woo-woo thing where we breathe for a second, but it helps give us a nice transition from me talking a bunch, and then you have to think about actually writing under pressure. So what we do is some timed writing prompts. And in these, I will get you thinking about the ideas. I kind of ease you into it a little bit, but finally I'll just land you with the words that are the prompt. And then I'll put them in the chat so that you can revisit them as you're working. And then I'll say, on your marks, get that right, and you're stuck. 5 minutes of writing, whether you like it or not. Now, if your brain says, nope, I'm not doing that, I recommend a couple things. I recommend you write by hand first. And what that does in a weird way, and I do have an article that backs this up, and I could go find it if you need me to. If you're handwriting instead of typing, there's a different transaction that happens between the hemispheres of your brain when you're using handwriting. So I don't mean that all of your writing should be by hand, but I think this, fast pressure writing prompt works better if you're engaging both sides of your brain. It gets your ideas going and flowing, and just opens up more possibilities because you're working with both sides of the brain. But if you type, that's fine too. I'm just saying there's a reason that you might want to write by hand. Then if your brain says nope, just start writing a short repetitive sentence that's something like, can't think of what to write. I can't think of what to write. I can't think of what to. By the second or third time you're writing that sentence, most likely your brain's like, I give up. If that's all you're going to do, I'll give you something, and then something will come out. It's surprising. I'm surprised because I've been teaching this. I've done pressured writing with my students for, again, decades, and it works. And it works if I tell you to write, unless, so I used to teach a core course at the Air Force Academy, and, every now and then you get a cranky student who'd be like, I could only write, I don't know what to write. That's like, good for your imagination. They just wanted to prove a point, I think. Anyway, so that's a technique to use if you get writer's block when it starts. But I also give you a little bit of time as I'm talking about the beginning of prompt that should be sparking your imagination to get you going. So what order do I want to do this in? I'm going to talk about the prompt the first time a little bit, and then have us do the breathing, because that'll give your brain a lot of time since we're doing this the first time. And then the next time I'll just have us do the prompt because we'll already breathe. Okay, so what I'm doing is basically, in your case, it's a great idea if you have some characters already in mind, you might choose those. Or if you're just coming into this going, I don't know what I'm going to write about, consider writing about yourself or somebody you know well, but you can write in the first person because you can always fictionalize yourself. The novel I'm working on is a very loose version of me. She's very much not me anymore, but she was very me when I started because I couldn't. The sad thing is that my sister is terminally ill with metastatic breast cancer. The good thing is that there's been new treatments, and so her life expectancy is a little longer. Like she would probably be in her final decline now, and instead we have hope that she has like 3 to 5 more years, which is really exciting. But when she first was diagnosed 3 years ago, it's all I could do. It's all I could write about. It's all I could think about. It was, So my character then was dealing with the aftermath of having lost her sister and all the complications that went around it. But she's very much not me anymore. So if you want to write about yourself, then you can turn around and fictionalize it. And a great way to fictionalize yourself, if you write about yourself today, is to make the character then do something you would never do. And then it's not you anymore. So either pick a character you have in mind or think about yourself. And I'm going to talk to you about, I have 5 writing prompts here and trying to think of what's the best one to start with. So I'm going to do this sort of long one because it'll get you into it. And then the second one will follow well with it. And the longer one, and again, I'll put this in the prompt, is to think about a time when you, and this you could be your character or yourself, inadvertently uncovered something good or bad, like you discovered a secret, but it might be a bad secret, it might be a good one. You weren't meant to know. An overheard conversation about yourself or someone close to you, maybe your partner's diary, an internet search that took you to a place you didn't expect, some sort of observation. And so you'll write about this discovery and your character's response or your response. Did you, meet this information head on? Did you carry on your life as if you'd never learned it? How did you respond to the secret information that you realized you weren't ever meant to know? And this is a simplified version of all that I just said, and I'm going to put it in the prompt, in the chat. Okay. And when I put this up on the YouTube channel, I put the prompts in the description. So you can always revisit it and do this again. And the timing is always there, right? Okay, so and this will just take a couple seconds of woo-wooing, but trust me, it's worth it because it's a good transition. I wanted you to take a second to sort of sit up and close your eyes. If you want to turn off your video, it's fine to do that. And you can turn it off for the writing as well. And just breathe in through your nose, like a deep, and then out through your mouth. And this time, when you're going to breathe in, note the temperature of the air as it comes in through your nose. And does it change as it comes out through your mouth? And then we'll just do one more deep breath in. And when you're comfortable and you haven't been holding it too long, go ahead and let that breath. I'm going to read that prompt to you one more time, and then we're going to start. Think about a time when you inadvertently uncovered something good or bad you weren't meant to know. An overheard conversation about yourself or someone close to you, your partner's diary, an internet search, and observation. Write about the discovery and your response. Did you confront the new information, or did you carry on as if you never learned it? Go ahead and start. You have a minute left. Okay, go ahead and start trying to wrap things up. I guess I won't really know when you're back because most of you aren't running your videos. As you're wrapping things up, I'll just keep talking. The next thing that we do is that you get brave and we just read out what you got, keeping in mind that you only had 6, because I goofed up on the timing, 6 minutes to write what you have. And so we know it's not polished. This is something that just came off the top of your head, but it's so fun because it's a creative act. And I love seeing what you all come up with. And I know I've done these myself, and it's just hilarious. I mean, your brain will just take off in directions you never expected. So hopefully that happened and we can listen to what everybody had. So I think Marta can talk out loud.
Yes.
Okay, so I know that
Terrified.
it's fine. It's really fine. I do want to say actually another really great thing about this, and I know that you're terrified, but we're in a friendly group here, is that if you're going to be a writer at all, you end up reading your writing out loud. So this is low stakes. We're not expecting it to be perfect. So think of when you go to like a reading and your work is polished and it's supposed to be perfect. I mean, this is easy stuff here. We're friendly and, you know, we're excited that this happened. And Christine, I don't know, are you going to be able to talk out loud? So you'll try. Okay. And if it doesn't work, you could always type it in the chat. I don't know, because I'd love to be able to give feedback to you. And as you guys can see, sorry, you guys is a leftover bad habit. As all of you can see in the chat, I put the graded elements that SNHU tends to have us thinking about for the rest of the term. And it's a slightly different in this first module because it's not a complete story, but so that you're looking at the connection of the sort of summary and the scene, but in the rest of it, it'll be narrative arc. And so are you going to have these things in what you wrote now? No, but what are some things that are especially applicable to this kind of like fast writing might be? What do we learn about a character? Is there setting description in there? Maybe did some sensory detail show up? Or did things like, especially in the quick writing, a metaphor might show up, you know? The metaphor I just thought of, I can't even say out loud, that was horrible. Where did it even come from? My ex-husband used to say this about the cold, and so it was as cold as a woman's part in a snowbank. So that's a terrible metaphor. A witch's woman's part in a snowbank, an upper part. Anyway, so that's a horrible metaphor. Don't use that one. What's wrong with me today? But you know, that kind of thing, like there might be a comparison, a simile or a metaphor that shows up, or maybe a little bit of nice alliteration or assonance will just slip into your writing when you're writing in this place. So who knows? Anyway, this was me giving you time to get brave and kind of talking so that you can breathe. And would anybody like to give a try to your writing and share it with us?
Are you asking us to volunteer?
Because it's mean to call on you. But
I'll do it. I'm used to being the tribute.
Excellent. That was a nice Hunger Games reference.
Thanks. Okay. I didn't really get to the crux of what I thought I was was gonna write, but that's okay.
That's common. It's fine.
Okay. We can't keep it from her forever. We have to tell her. Ding ding. That was the sound of my best friend, as per usual, sending an ill-timed response to my latest text. Busted. My brain raced. Do I try to run? No, they heard me. So I knock on the door and carefully push it open. I put on my best business as usual face. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Do you know where the tape is? That's all I got.
This is what we do. And I have a morning meditation writing prompt thing every day during the week. And we go, ooh, that's us clapping because we're usually muted. That was awesome. I was super hooked in the beginning. And so, and Christine, if you are going to try to talk, that's great. Or you can type in the response that you have in the chat, and if Marta, if you have anything to say. Marta.
Sure. Do you want me to read, or is
Well,
this regarding just Sandy?
We're responding to just Sandy, and then
I'm hooked. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what they want to tell her, and I love the that it was via text, so it's more current to this generation. It's something that everybody can relate to. I'm wondering if it was a message sent in to the wrong crowd, especially if you have group chats and then you send it to you send it and you don't know that person's in it. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, so there was definitely a hint of narrative arc. There's a mystery that's happening, and so there's a conflict in that, and we would assume that in the full story we would end up knowing the resolution to that conflict, but there's tension, there's rising action because she's pushing open the door, and then we know a little bit about there's at least two characters who want our narrator not to know what's going on. There's the setting at a minimum, we know that it's after cell phones have ding ding notifications, right? And there's a door, so they're indoors. We know that much. No rhetorical devices this time, but what's really kind of cool is that there's already movement. Like, so that's helping your narrative arc because and we know that it's not, because at first I thought maybe it was, a hallway in an apartment, but then she can push open the door. So it's maybe already ajar. So maybe it's a classroom or some kind of other, a work environment. We don't really know. The tape made me think classroom. I don't know why. Christine, do you have anything you want to add?
I'll try. It was really good. I liked the beginning and the dialogue.
So you like the dialogue in the beginning. That's what we got. Great. Yeah, dialogue is dialogue is difficult. So also starting with dialogue is pretty cool. But you started with internal monologue, right? Like the person was thinking.
No, they were talking.
Oh, they were talking. That's right.
We can't keep it from her forever. We have to tell her.
Yeah. Created a lot of suspense. And we have lots of questions. And so if your opening paragraph creates a bunch of questions, you're probably on track because that makes the readers want to find out the answers to those questions.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Who wants to be brave and go next?
I can go next. Although,
okay.
I'm so thankful it's online because I'm literally sweating.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good. It's good. It's good. All right. So let me see. All right. Here we go. Remember that time your mother said that she didn't really want you? Yeah, that time where she was having a casual conversation with a friend while you were supposed to be in the next room studying the Bible. I never really thought about being wanted, being looked, really understood. I thought that was something everyone knew. Your parents are supposed to be your foundation, your strength. I had a lifetime of struggle of not really having a relationship with my family at the age of 16 already, but I thought I was normal. Hearing this conversation while going to get a glass of water wasn't ideal, I must admit. We were both shocked as we stared at each other, and I stopped it there.
Wow.
Still sweating, still sweating.
Well, because it's also an intense topic. I mean, fair enough. And what a hook in the beginning. Would you agree, Sandy and Christine?
Yeah. This is what we do, sending love at work. I had chills. Like, it was just very like emotional. Like, you're already like emotionally invested, like from the beginning. And it also does kind of like give you questions too, because you're wondering like, why don't they want them? Like, is there something wrong, or is there something wrong with the person? Like, it makes you want to know more, but also it's like, oh, chilly, interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any? Yeah.
It was very vulnerable. And
So you said it was very vulnerable, but then you muted yourself. Is that the whole comment? It was. I agree. Just want to make sure you said everything you wanted to say.
yeah, I like how personal it was.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be really brave. And for all we know, it's fiction. For all we know, she made up all of that, but it didn't feel like it, right? I mean, it just felt really true. And that's when people talk about having to write honestly, that's the kind of thing. Even if it's fiction, it felt emotionally truthful. And Tim O'Brien, who will read The Things They Carried chapter from his book, The Things They Carried, I think that's what it's called. I think that's the chapter we're reading. He says in a different chapter that's called How to Write a True War Story, which is a fantastic read. I recommend it. That sometimes happening truth can be different than story truth, because if you tell the story well enough, you'll actually get to the heart of what really happened. Even though what you wrote is fiction, it's emotionally more true than just laying out the facts. And in this case, it felt super emotionally true. And as somebody whose own mother, fiction is a lie, they tell the truth. Yes. As somebody whose own mother, I had the same conversation with mine, but not overheard, which would be almost worse. But I was unexpected, sort of unwanted. It just really hit home for me as a reader, because I talk about how we bring our own contingent reality to what we're reading. So you don't know what your reader has in their background. So our reality is contingent on the experiences we've had in our life. So in my contingent reality, I heard your piece and I was like, yes, this is exactly right. But as your teacher, there was a couple other things that were exciting that were happening there too, because she hears that her mother didn't really want her as she's coming from reading the Bible. And that tells you so much about the family, that the family has a strong Christian foundation, because this is like a chatty moment in a house. And what the daughter has been directed, the narrator, I don't actually have to know if that's a daughter, has been directed to read the Bible. So we know that there's a Christian foundation in this house. So that's character development and that setting. And I know it's in a house like that because the person's going to get a glass of water. So I have a sense of the setting. And then there's stuff happening. I would argue there's something rhetorical happening between the fact that the narrator is in doing Bible study and the mother is saying that she didn't want her happening at the same time. I feel like there's a larger thing happening at that scale. So cool. Oh, goodness. That was really great. What a great start. Christine, what we're noticing with you, you put it in the chat. Do you want me to read it out loud for you? Okay. I lingered by the pool table. Ashley and Jonathan sat underneath it, and I was off to the side like always. Ashley's upturned nose always made a nasally sound when she spoke, defining her from the others. She was high class, where we were white trash, our tattered clothes no match for her designer threads, all purchased from her mother's generosity. She'd sneered when her mother had insisted on taking us out to buy new clothes. My brother Jonathan, myself, and our two siblings. Ashley was forced to play with us whenever they visited from California. She tried to tan her pale skin in our Arizona desert and could never match our skin like the brown ravines we played in. She's so annoying, she said to him, mock whisper. Let's play without her. It struck me hard and I instinctively punched her foot, the only thing I could see, like a snake bite. I came from around, saw my brother's face, ashamed that he was near her. Oops, she covered the smile on her face and the rush of blood swelled up in my head. Ooh. Nice. Oh. Okay, so Sandy, Martha, anything you want to say about this one?
I don't know if I was like interpreting it, but I'm like, oh, did this just get spicy? Like, I really enjoyed that it was like kind of like a introduction and like a build up, and then like a like, whoa, wait, what's going on? That like surprise element of like discovering it with the character or the narrator was like really good.
Definitely.
I can also relate as well with at least some of the characters. And I can tell, I can place myself in the scenario. I can see the pool table. I can even almost feel the punch. So it was pretty great. I want to hear more as well, and as to not only why she feels that I think Ashley felt maybe higher than the rest, but also why. So very good. I really want to hear more.
Definitely. And it seems like maybe there's a family relationship going on here, because it's whenever we visited and her mother insisted on buying clothes for them. And that feels like the kind of relationship that happens, like, say, cousins or something, which would speak to such complexity at the adult level as well. We have clear setting. Again, we're probably indoors, although it's Arizona. So there is a chance that that pool table is outside, but probably not. And so we're in probably like a rec room. We understand these differences, and we would think that Jonathan and the narrator would be allies in this because they're part of the family that's white trash. And his face is ashamed at the end because he's been kind of a traitor because he's attracted to Ashley and her expensive ways, which is really cool. So we have setting, we know it's Arizona. The rush of blood even gives us a little bit of sensory detail, which is nice. And that kind of sensory detail puts us in there. The sound of her nasally voice could do that if you were tweaking it a little bit. The character development, you tell us that she's high class, and you tell us that the others are white trash. And if you work on this, expanding it in a story, you could actually just show us that with the designer threads, with details about their white trash clothing. We would come to understand that. And if that pool table was in even maybe a double wide trailer, we'd really understand that as somebody who's lived in a trailer before. My favorite part, because I'm a sucker for metaphors and rhetorical devices. So it says, could never match our skin like the brown ravines we played in. I loved it. The idea that these kind of country, desert, Arizona, white trash kids are a part of the landscape, that they would blend in any ravine they were in, that they're wild, like the landscape around them. I just love that. So anyway, that's what I thought of with all that. And yeah, I'm impressed that you did that so fast. You used cursive. Like, you wrote in cursive, like, oh, you must be my age if you're writing in cursive. I'm 53, so yeah. But the other thing that happened, this is just an anecdote unrelated to any of this, is, oh gosh, you're much younger than me. I studied Russian while I was deployed in Kyrgyzstan, and then kept auditing it when I came back and taught the last time at the Air Force Academy. I audited the beginning Russian classes, and you have to practice. The letters are slightly different for Cyrillic if you're printing or if you're doing cursive. And so I had practiced Russian cursive writing, and I started writing cursive again in English a lot more. Yeah, cursive is way faster. This was an amazing start. Aren't you guys excited? This is why we do this. Yay. So let's do one more. Does that sound good? We have just time to do that. We'll go a little bit past 10, but that'll be okay, won't it? I think. Okay, so breathe, be happy. We're getting ready to do another prompt that I want to do this really short prompt with you that this time I will hit enter on so that you have it, because I feel like it completely matches with what we just wrote, but it extends it. So possibly you'll be writing an extension of where you already were, or think about another time in your life that was, like a big change moment. And the prompt, and I'm going to get my timer out here. Okay. So the prompt is, if I had only known that, and you'll start writing. But somewhere in your writing, maybe when I tell you have a minute left, you'll add, so therefore, and I'm going to hit enter on that. So now it's up in the chat before we start. If only I had known that. So therefore, okay, get ready, set, write. You have about a minute left. Okay, you want to start wrapping things up, please? Christine was asking, we were supposed to use those words, right? Or did it matter? And honestly, writing is all that matters. So anytime you get these prompts and it puts you under pressure, if it doesn't even match the prompt, it's fine. All that matters is that writing happened. So I want to encourage you to just write when you get the chance. Okay, so how are we doing? Are you getting wrapped up?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good news. Typically, we'll ask somebody else to be brave. And I threw those graded elements back up again in the chat just for something to think about in the back of your head as we're listening, because a lot of times our first reaction is I do or don't like this. And of course that matters because people won't read something they're not interested in. But if we think about what elements are happening, it also helps us understand why we do or don't like something. So keep those in mind as we're listening to people read. And Christine, it does show that if you talk for a couple seconds before you get into the main part of your talking, we do hear you fine. Like it gives you kind of wah, and then you're fine. So if you want to try to read, you can, or if you want to put them in the chat, just let us know either way. You can try. Okay. So who would like to go first?
I can start.
Oh,
I
I'm so
suppose I
proud of
should
you.
take the tribute this time.
Okay.
Right. I think I went a different route than before. All right. So if I had only known that the eyes were part of the brain, I wouldn't have taken them both out. Fatma shouted at Alina as she held two bloody blue eyeballs in her hand. I told you to only take his memories, Alina shouted back. Why would you take his eyeballs out? Sorry. I don't know. Sorry. He already knew too much, Alina, and he nearly killed you. What did you want me to do? Not take his eyes out. What's done is done. I can still go inside his mind and retrieve his memories. We must know where he's keeping the child. We only have 2 hours before sunrise. The moon is still up. I have the strength. Do it quickly, but this time don't take anything extra. Last time you did this, you had an identity crisis for a month. And that's where I left.
Oh, fantastic. Can I get responses from people? Yeah. Sci-fi from Tosaji.
Wow. That was amazing. I definitely had like some kind of like extraordinary like vibe to it, like there's more possible than like what there is. That it kept you like wanting more, wanting to know like what was going on. It was good.
Definitely.
Can you hear me?
Closely.
Okay, I loved it and thought it was great, the sci-fi as well, and it made you wonder thing with this person's memory and eyes at all.
Yeah, I think I had the exact same thing going on as Christine, which is I feel like there's going to be this cool connection when you open with, if I'd only known the eyes were a part of the brain, I wouldn't have ripped them out or something like that. Because now I'm expecting her to use that power with the 2 hours left of Moonlight to go in and go, oh shoot, I messed up his memories. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, the poor child. And I mean, so like as a reader who's anticipating what you're going to do as an author, I'm like, oh, she's off to something really great. Yeah. So what did he see that we need to know? And did it take out all the scene parts of the memory or something? I don't know. I'm really excited. So that was quite an opening line because I mean, so especially listening, we actually take things in a little more slowly than if we're reading the physical words. And so listening, I'm like, is this a surgeon? Is this? And then I was like, not a surgeon. And then the dialogue with the other character, which is like not take his eyeballs out. You can hear the banter between them, and I immediately thought they were sisters, and they're maybe partners or something, but they certainly get after each other, kind of like sisters. So yeah, high stakes thriller vibes. Definitely a narrative arc we feel like we're on, and there's a goal ahead of us. The crisis is we don't know where a child is. The conflict is that not only is the child missing, but we don't know why she ripped his eyeballs out, other than she was just sort of mad at him. And then what will it mean to retrieving his memories to get the ultimate goal of getting the child? I put us in like this cold, snowy, awful place. We have no idea where this is, but your reader, will fill in details on your behalf. And that's a really important step to be doing as an author is getting just enough brushstrokes of setting that the reader gets to be engaged and fill in that other part with you. So definitely it's okay that we don't know exactly where it's at. I think you have an opportunity as the story would expand to give us some more sensory detail, like what do those two blue eyes feel like in her hands? You're thinking angel type things. Ooh. And also, lots of room for more rhetorical devices. I didn't notice any because I was really caught up in the plot. There might have been some, and I would notice them if I were reading them on the page, but I was just like, what's going to happen next? So really exciting. It was a good start. Who wants to follow that? It's just like, it's like, not me.
Maybe Christine wants to try. That way, if we can't hear her, she has
Taking time.
a lot of time to type. Yeah.
Great point. One new message from Christine. Yes, go ahead. Okay. I think she's typing. I get the impression Christine's typing then, and Jasandi, you're gonna, yeah. Okay.
Okay. If I had only known that my words had an actual impact. I've made so many choices, so many of them misguided. I thought this was my passion, putting pen to paper. I thought I'd move people with my fiction. I didn't know I'd literally move them. I didn't know once I put the words on the paper that my lie would cease to be a lie, that they were now destined to become the truth. My pen was a weapon, sharp and blood-stained. So therefore, I must quit. Find a new passion, maybe one a little less freeing, a little less open to the impossible.
Wow. I again, I think you have me hooked again. I already have this image of, all right, are her words becoming alive, literally, or how they're impacting. I don't know if you've seen this movie called Ink Master, where when he reads, like he takes characters out of the book into the real life and then brings in a human being into the book. So it gave me those type of vibes. I love it. I love it. Great job.
Christine, are you typing or do you have anything to add?
I'll try to speak my comments because I thought it was cool. It's totally different than the first one, which I loved, but I loved this one as well. It also seemed like it could go into magical realism. I was completely interested to see if it was literal or.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it could be somebody really just thinking about the way that we know in everyday life that words can hurt people and cause changes, even if they're unintentional. But what if it's like Ink Master, or I'm going to forget the name of the movie, but the actors in it are Will Ferrell and Emma Thompson. And she's got to finish a novel and she's so sick of her character, she wants to kill him off. But it turns out that he's the character, like, and they're both in real life. So if you Google that, that was so much fun. He's like, wait, don't do it. Because he hears her voice inside his head narrating his life. And he says no. So yeah, I mean, it could really be a fun magical realism thing where she would write somebody and then it would come true. Somebody, I think last term in my class, had a character who was sort of a shut-in, and it reminded me of a Carly Simon song, something about the radio, Angie Baby, that's what it's called. And she wrote up the perfect guy and then went to the bookstore to get another journal, and he was there. So, I mean, there's so many fun possibilities with that. And with that piece, that was pretty thinky, right? We had one narrator, no dialogue, and the narrator didn't interact with anybody else, which can be fine in the longer story for this class. So like, amazing work for a quick writing thing. I'm just now making a teaching moment for the class. David Gates, who is one of my advisors at Bennington, I hate to admit, but he's very right. Your characters always have to they can't be alone too long. They're not as interesting when they're inside their heads, and they have to be interacting with other people. And it's too bad because as writers, we're people who live inside our heads a lot. So we tend to make our characters live inside their heads a lot. So like if you're writing for this one for the class, definitely have some kind of interaction happen and have us, now that we understand the inside of her head, get out to the other side of the world and show her personality by interacting with other people. But dang, my pen was a weapon, right? You got me. It was a great metaphor. That's, a pen is a weapon. And it doesn't, I mean, it could be like a surgical weapon to make something better, right? But it definitely is a weapon. And this character seems to be really compassionate because she realizes the harm that's happening. And she's like, I have to come up with another passion. And I don't know if you've ever tried to do that. It's not very possible. So, she's got to figure out how to make it work because people really only have a couple passions in their life, right?
Can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Can I add to that? Because like that opens the door for something else. What if she decides along the way to use it as a weapon, to wield a weapon? So it could be that this is how the character develops in many different ways, or there's so many different ways that it can go. Sorry, I loved it.
Well, and especially if it's real, like considering the sort of sci-fi angle, like, well, fantasy maybe angle, I don't know, that yours took, Martha. Hers, she could help somebody by using her pen as a weapon on behalf of somebody she wants to help, right? Just some great thoughts. So that's fun. So Christine, did you end up typing yours, or do you want to, oh, here it is. Okay, I will read it. Unless one of you wants to. Okay. If I'd only known that lying was an eternal problem, that a person who tells you an untruth multiple times will never change. His peanut butter breath gave it away. I asked him, did you open your gift? And it was the breath that gave it away. And even as he said no. But someone wouldn't lie about a detail so small, would they? He'd turned 19. older than me by 6 months now, even though I was a senior and he was a junior. I trusted that he thought I was amazing, but why lie about not opening his birthday present? And as the days melted into weeks, little shifts in my perception didn't add up. When he was going to call fell through, and who he was with didn't seem right. The reports that came out in conversation with others that he was kissing a girl with dark hair, which couldn't obviously be me, his dirty blonde girlfriend. So therefore, I gave up trusting myself and leaned into him. Love would fix it all, my mother had said. She who trusted my dad despite his affair, and I didn't know about 9 years in the making. She who trusted my dad despite his affair that I didn't know about, 9 years in the making. Ooh. Stories about generational choices. Just Sandy and Marta first.
I mean, I typed to Christine directly, wow, because there's so much that we can relate to as a human being. That the first thing, why would anyone lie about opening a present? At first I thought it was a kid.
Yeah.
Because kids, they want to conceal. But then when she says, oh, he's 19, I was like, what? No way. So if he's lying about something so small, he's definitely lying about the big things. Oh my gosh, I can relate. I want to hear more. I want to know who the darker girl is. Absolutely. Again, 6 minutes and these stories are coming up. I am amazed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm like consistently shocked at how much you put in like this such a little time. It doesn't even feel like 6 minutes, but I was definitely like intrigued. Like you definitely have like a sense of writing like across different generations, or like using like different sets of people to like kind of conflict. And I think like one of the best things about this was that she's like kind of saying like, she's just gonna lean into it and like let love fix it, which makes me feel like, oh my God, he's definitely gonna destroy her. Like he's gonna do some really bad stuff, and like this is gonna escalate. It gives you that sense of like you're invested and you want to know what's going on. I loved it. Sorry, I talk so much.
Oh, no. I was just reading her chat, which is, these are all real life. I have a harder time being fast with fiction. Yeah, me too. Same experience. Oh, wow, real life. Okay, so I'm going to treat it like fiction. So anything I say, don't be offended on his behalf or anything. Yeah, so as I'm going through this, and I've had every kind of writing happen as I teach this class, I was like, is it a kid? And then I was like, is it a dog? Is she like talking to her dog? Because peanut butter breath, right? And then he's 19, but he's a year behind her in school. And that's the first clue, right? We're like, no, this guy is trouble. This guy's real trouble. He's older than her and behind her in school. And there's reasons for that. May be his fault, may be not. And then she lists out the lies, right? And so we know he's lying. And we talk about the surprise, the little shift that happens for us. And that's the most important thing we do in our writing, is surprise the reader. In fact, there's this really, I can't remember who said it, and I apologize, but there's a famous writer who says, what's cliche? Anything we've heard before. And that's almost true, right? Don't, lean into the things that we've heard before. Surprise us with something like, so therefore I gave up trusting, and it went to the next line in my chat. So it was even a surprise in the way it was built, myself. And I was like, what do you mean yourself? What do you mean? You gave up trusting him, right? And so that lovely surprise that even though she knows she's being lied to, she gives up trusting herself because surely she's misinterpreting the truth. And then she gives us that reason why. And this is why this works really well as flash fiction, because I think in a longer story, you would extend that for a bit and let us figure that out for ourselves for the circumstance in those people's life. But if you wanted to land a complete narrative arc, which I don't know if we've talked about flash, but we can do that next time if you want. These 6-minute writing bursts usually give you about enough writing to have something that could go into a short flash fiction place. And this is a complete narrative arc in this sense. So that's really great. So complete narrative arc, we have conflict and we have resolution. We know how this little conflict resolves, and just Andy's right. I mean, it's also going to be like a lifelong problem. we have this character who we trusted because she's smart enough to see all this, smart enough to be a senior when she's probably 18 and a half, which is on time. And then she doesn't trust herself. And oh my gosh. I mean, so right now we're all women in this Zoom, and we know this story, don't we? Right? That the woman doesn't trust herself instead of the character not trusting the man and kicking him to the curb. So great character development, somebody that we recognize also as a stereotype in some ways, in a good way, you know, like one that readers can recognize and fill in. We don't know really where they are, and it doesn't matter because she's talking about a circumstance. She's not setting us in scene. So the next thing that would happen if this is a longer story is she would put us in a scene somewhere and let maybe these two characters interact with each other, or the parents and the character, or somebody like that. And the rhetorical devices at the beginning, there was another wonderful one, his peanut butter breath. So that was a metaphor, the breath became peanut butter. Great. Oh my gosh, you guys are wonderful. Okay, so what, 6 new messages. Let me catch up. Yes, wonderful. So, and you all have each other's connections. I've opened up the email one time so everybody could see each other's emails. So you could reach out to each other on email. Slack is an easy way to reach each other, but you know, obviously you all mesh well writing with each other. And I'm so excited about what happened in these 6-minute compression writing prompts. And so many great things happened. Do you have questions for me, or do you want to talk about what happened? Or yeah, I think this was great too. I loved it. Yeah, and all of these are legitimate ideas that you could push into story ideas if you wanted to for the assignment. I know it's due tomorrow. No, it's due at the end of next week. That's why I do this now.
My heart stopped a little bit.
I know, and I apologize. It is a little hard when, you know, I repeat every 10 weeks. Like, it is a wee bit hard to keep them straight. But I'm going to stop recording so we can finish this. Hold on.